right now. What are we, men or insects? We mosquitoes, us were super insects. This is our pledge. We mosquitoes will do at least $150 million damage to America this year. Find out. Why are you late? This is war. Men are fighting each other. Now is the time to wipe out those human swine. Where have you been?
But, monsieur, I have been out in the cow country. Voila, the great damage. 50 billion francs. How much is that in francs marks?
Well, enough of this.
Hi, Adolf. This is a louse reporting from the front. We're spreading typhus germs everywhere. The place is lousy with us.
Yeah, that's good sabotage.
Reverse those charges.
Typhus germs, good. More sabotage.
Typhus, malaria, disease. Who now our ally, Benito Vivo, will report. Their Vivo will do at least $125 million damage to their cotton crop in America this year. Signed, Benito Vivo. Who now our Aryan friend, the dishonorable Toyo, fly spec champ.
Thank you, please. Thank you, please. Fries will spread pollution and disease that will cost America $70 million this year. Human beings think their lives are priceless. Excuse, please. But to the typhoid fry, they are dirt cheap. Dirt cheap.
Of course, all that was just a lot of tomfoolery. Maybe you think it's funny. But don't get the idea that this insect access business is a joke, something we can laugh off. Listen to what one of the world's most venerable scientists has to say about this.
Of all the living creatures on this earth, the insects are the worst enemies of mankind. They destroy incalculable amounts of property. In this country alone, we lose over 2,500,000,000 each year. And do you realize that that means that the labor of 1 million men annually is vitiated? It really, in the ultimate analysis, goes to feed the insects. Next to the insects come the germs of disease. And the germs of disease are carried by insects. Many of our most fatal maladies.
That was Dr. L.O. Howard, world-famous entomologist. For 37 years, chief of our Bureau of Entomology. You see, this is no laughing matter. 1 million men working to feed insects. And that's no joke. Look at this cotton field. Boll weevil damage. More than $100 million worth each year. Enough to buy us a battleship or 400 flying fortresses. Every cotton farmer knows what to do about that. Grasshoppers in an average year destroy enough crops in these United States to pay for 1,400 50-millimeter anti-aircraft guns. Each year, screwworms do damage to livestock in the south and southwest equal to the cost of 5 modern destroyers or 500 fighting planes. Smear 62 is the remedy. The Colorado potato beetle robs us of enough each year to pay for 75 four-motored bombers or over 300 fighters. The housefly, carrier of typhoid and other filth-borne diseases, costs us annually enough to pay for an airplane carrier or 1,000 light tanks. To destroy flies, keep stables clean. Spread stable manure at least every third day, or use a fly trap tip. Champion of all insects in damage done to the human race is the mosquito. This is the Anopheles or malaria mosquito, the most dangerous animal in the world, cause of more deaths than any other carrier of disease. The deadly yellow fever mosquito is another constant menace to mankind. Mosquitoes, all kinds, cost us nearly $150 million each year. Paris green kills malaria mosquitoes. For yellow fever mosquitoes, change water daily in vases, and don't let water stand in tin cans or other receptacles in or about the house. Oil for the rest. And, of course, for mosquitoes in general, drainage of pools and swamps wherever possible. Make no mistake, this is war. Your war. Everybody's war. Don't think that it's not important. Remember, insects rob us of $2.5 billion a year, to say nothing of countless human lives. If all that could be saved, it would buy 30 battleships or 10,000 flying fortresses a year. It would buy 15,000 Billy Mitchell bombers. It would buy 50,000 pursuit planes. It would buy more than 100,000 40-millimeter guns. It would buy 1,500,000 Jeeps. So don't think that it's not important. And don't forget this. Insect pests are the most dangerous enemies of mankind. And now they're all working for the other axis, hand in glove. The mosquito and Adolf. The typhoid fly and Tojo. The boll weevil and Benito, with apologies to the weevil. It's your business to see that these six-legged saboteurs don't rob us of the food and manpower so urgently needed to win the war. A little work, a little oil, a little of this poison or that. You can all fight on this front. Smash the insect axis. Do it! And do it now.
Always dear to young and old, the sweetest story ever told, a coach for Cinderella.
of slippers for her feet, and the finest coach in all the land. Are you with me, men? Yes! No! Yes! Be off, my men! I suppose you've heard about that hussy, Mrs. Webb Spider. No, but I'm listening. Well, far be it from me to gossip, but it seems that only last night, Mr. Webb Spider... No, yes. What's the matter? Lazy? Get to work. Who's the next? Stop, Tony, you're tickling.
One big blow and the seeds fly in to test the air that lies within a coach for Cinderella.
Heads up down there.
How many?
The bluebirds fly in circles wide, weaving their way from side to side, forming the drapes that help provide the gown for Cinderella.
Thank you.
Now we present in full array the coach for Cinderella, the coach for Cinderella.
Internal combustion is the great source of power which has made possible the transportation system we have today. And here are the boys who provide the power that drives your car. Our old friends, air, fuel, and...
Hey, Sparky, come on out.
ignition.
Hey, fellas, look here.
What kind of an engine is that?
I don't know. You got me.
That's a big diesel engine, boys.
What?
A diesel engine. It's an internal combustion engine, but it works differently than a gasoline engine.
Can we make it go?
Of course you can make it go. In fact, it won't go without you. Why don't you look it over?
What are we waiting for? Come on, fellas. Let's go.
Yes, air, fuel, and ignition cooperate to give the diesel its power, but they get together in somewhat different ways than in an automobile engine.
No carburetor?
Yeah. No carburetor, no battery, no coil, no spark plug. What an engine.
Yes, that's right, boys. No carburetor, no coil or wiring, no spark plugs. But in a diesel engine, you get along without them. And we're going to find out why and how. Remember, in the gasoline engine, air and fuel are combined in the carburetor to form an explosive mixture. Fuel enters the carburetor at the float chamber. Air is sucked in through an air cleaner, then pulled past a tiny opening called the fuel jet, which mixes fuel in the proper proportion to air. This explosive mist is fed into the cylinder on the intake stroke of the piston, then compressed on the compression stroke. Meanwhile, our third member of the internal combustion trio is waiting in the ignition system in the form of electrical energy. At the proper time, the distributor sends him on his way to the cylinder where the explosive mixture has been compressed, and bam, the explosion that provides the power stroke. Then the piston comes up on the exhaust stroke to push the burned gases out of the cylinder. And so we have the four-stroke power cycle of the gasoline engine which drives your car. Intake, compression, power, exhaust. The basic parts of a diesel engine are the same as those of a gasoline engine. There are cylinders, pistons, connecting rods, and a crankshaft. The valve mechanism is essentially the same as in a gasoline engine. There is also a cooling system to get rid of the heat caused by combustion. This is a 3-cylinder inline engine, but various arrangements of the cylinders are practical. V-type, pancake, and so on. In a diesel engine, there is no carburetor to mix air and fuel outside the cylinder, and no electrical system to provide ignition in the form of high-voltage electricity. But ignition doesn't have to be electrical. Ignition is simply heat. Heat enough to set fire to something. If you squeeze any substance hard enough, compress it, it gets hot. Even our friend air can be compressed to a very high temperature, high enough to ignite fuel if it is present. Lucky thing fuel wasn't along, or there would have been an explosion. In this principle of compression ignition lies the major difference between gasoline and diesel engines. A compression ratio of about 8-to-1 is common in automobile engines today. On the compression stroke, the piston squeezes the air-fuel mixture in the chamber to 1/8 of its former volume. The diesel is a higher compression engine. At the top of a diesel compression stroke, the air in the cylinder may be squeezed to as little as 1/20th of the former volume. And when you squeeze air that hard, it gets hot, 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. Because of higher compression, and therefore higher temperatures in the cylinders, diesel engines can use fuels which are less volatile than gasoline. Higher compression and the resulting higher pressures require a diesel engine to be made stronger than a gasoline engine. And because of the higher compression, fuel and air cannot be mixed outside the cylinder in a carburetor. The mixture would start burning too soon. The air has to be compressed alone, and the fuel put into the cylinder just when we want it to start burning. In place of the carburetor, we have a fuel injection system to get the fuel into the combustion chamber. Because we don't need a spark plug, we can put the fuel nozzle in its place at the top of the cylinder, connected to a high-pressure pump to force in the fuel. Now we have all the basic parts necessary for a diesel engine. To make it go, we need only air, fuel, and ignition. And here comes the first one, air. Whoops, the valve closes and there's no way out. Notice that at the end of diesel's intake stroke, the cylinder is filled with air. All air, not an air-fuel mixture.
What is this? Another squeeze play?
Exactly, my friend. You're going to work in a diesel engine, then the compression stroke, and his temperature rises steadily until it's hot enough to start fuel burning. Now, if fuel were only here.
Hey, what's up?
Your pals are waiting for you. This will do it. Fuel is pumped to the nozzle and sprayed into the chamber through tiny holes where the heated air ignites it immediately. The power stroke is completed and the exhaust valve opens as the piston returns on the exhaust stroke, driving the burned gases out of the cylinder. That completes the diesel's 4-stroke cycle. Intake, compression, power, exhaust. The power comes from the expansion of the burning gases, just as in a gasoline engine. But in a diesel, they expand more because of the higher compression and greater heat. That's one reason for the diesel's high efficiency. From the very beginning of the diesel, just before 1900, size and weight were a great disadvantage. Because diesels were so efficient and economical, engineers have constantly worked to cut down the ratio of weight to horsepower and make them more useful and versatile engines. This work has eventually resulted in making the diesel engine light enough to use in heavy-duty vehicles. The adoption of the automotive-type electric self-starter also contributed to its wider usefulness. While researchmen were improving and refining basic diesel engine designs, they also developed a two-cycle diesel engine. Instead of having the engine itself draw in fresh air and expel the burned gases, two-cycle diesel engines have a special fan or air pump to do the job. In many two-cycle engines, the intake valve is eliminated and replaced with a row of holes or intake ports in the cylinder wall. Then, to force large quantities of air into the cylinder quickly, a blower is added on the outside. This is sort of a fan or air pump. The blower most commonly used today is the Roots-type blower. It works somewhat like a pair of revolving doors. Of course, with the ordinary revolving doors, anyone can come in and just as easily get out. But if we move the two doors together so they interlock, then drive one clockwise, the other counterclockwise, we have the principle of the Roots-type blower. This unit provides a continuous supply of fresh air for combustion and a means of blowing exhaust gases out whenever the valve is open. The blower itself is a casing with two rotors, each having lobes which fit together somewhat like gear teeth. They give a constant flow of fresh air. This supply of air makes possible the two-stroke cycle, commonly called the two-cycle diesel engine. As the piston starts up, it seals off the ports and goes on to compress and heat the air to a high temperature. At the top of the stroke, fuel is injected, and the expansion of burning gases drives the piston down on the power stroke. As the piston is driven down, the exhaust valve opens. The ports are uncovered, and the blower forces air in, driving out the burned gases and filling the cylinder with fresh air. 2 or even 4 exhaust valves may be used in removing gases. And that's the complete cycle. Compression, power. Compression, power. In a two-cycle diesel, every downstroke is a power stroke. The heart of every diesel is the fuel injection system. All diesels have a nozzle in each cylinder through which fuel is sprayed into the hot compressed air. In some engines, the high-pressure pump and nozzle are combined into individual units, one for each cylinder. Other engines have a central pressure pump that supplies fuel to all cylinders. In principle, the injector spray nozzle is like a squirt gun.
But how does it work?
Fill it up, little fellow, and we'll find out. When we apply pressure, fuel squirts out the holes in the bottom.
Simple, isn't it?
Yes, it's simple enough in principle. But these fuel injectors are precise mechanisms that accurately measure the fuel and force it into the cylinder at exactly the right time. The jets through which the fuel must be forced have a diameter as small as 5/1000ths of an inch, less than the size of a human hair. A control changes the amount of fuel injected into the cylinder as the throttle is opened or closed. As the piston approaches the top of the compression stroke, a tiny drop of oil is injected into the combustion chamber under pressures as high as 20,000 pounds per square inch. Since the beginning of the diesel engine, changes in design plus improvements in materials have brought the weight of the modern diesel down to as low as 6 pounds per horsepower.
We sure made those diesel engines go. Hey, fellas, we're the power trio. That's us.
Why, in one of those engines we could drive a... Say, mister, what do we drive with diesel engines?
A great many things, boys. The productivity, economy, and reliability of the modern diesel engine make it particularly useful wherever there is tough work to be done. On any job, big or small, you'll find dependable, efficient diesel power. For instance, diesel power builds and maintains our modern highways and powers the trucks and buses that use them. Diesel power builds dams and irrigation canals, operates oil fields, and mines raw materials. Diesel power propels tugboats and towboats, fishing and pleasure craft, and all sizes of military vehicles and craft. This modern, reliable power plant becomes more versatile every day, driving farm tractors and machinery, pulling the fast freight and streamlined passenger trains. Diesel power is also used to safeguard our hospitals, communication centers, and factories during emergencies. And to provide precise electric power for missile guidance and outer defense lines. Yes, even the Carnival carries its own diesel power units.
Why, he looked at me. I beg your pardon? Well, we shall see. Here he comes now. Cinderella must be home by midnight, or she'll lose her gown, her slippers, her coach, everything.
If we could only stop the hussy.
I've got it. The old witch in the forest.
That's it. The witch.
On with the dance.
I'll stop that coach. In this rustic cauldron I brew lots of woe. I'm known for my witchcraft wherever I go. At such times as this, my minions take flight to torment the traveler who rides in the night. I'm always in an ugly mood. I love to poison people's food. I'm bad, as you may well conclude. I even hate myself.
But we spread happiness each day as we go on our merry way. We help to make this life more gay. We love everything, except that.
Say, Mamie, who's taking you to the Hass and Pfeffer Hop? What? That cheap lettuce lizard? Buck's taking me. And can that bunny strut? Woo woo! Kid, he's the carrots. Hold the line, dearie. Wait till I get rid of this pest. What's eating you, buddy? Where's the fire? Woodland Messenger Service? When I'm spreading gloom, my goal is destruction and ultimate doom. There, my pretty one, you won't fail me. Stop her. Wind, lightning, thunder, and rain. I'm always in an ugly mood. I love to poison people's food. I'm bad, as you may well conclude, I even hate myself.
Dear Lord of all gnomes, dear Lord of all gnomes and horsehoppers too, please hear this prayer we send to you. Won't you try with all your might to keep Cinderella safe tonight? Because we spread happiness each day as we go on our merry way. We help to make this life more gay. We love everything. Except that.
As I was saying last night, Cinderella, will you marry me?
I'm sorry, Your Highness. I can't. I have no dowry.
But what more dowry could I wish for than you, my love? And the coach.
Man's desire to fly like the birds goes back farther than we can be sure of, and his attempts have been many and varied. An ancient Persian king was supposed to have been born through the air in this manner, but the idea never caught on, so it seems reasonable to doubt that it worked. Many many of the attempts never left the ground. At least, not as they were intended to. An ancient safety engineer made this craft foolproof. The basket is to catch him if he falls. Correction, the function of the basket is unknown. Now, here's an imaginative contraption for low-cost transportation. You could travel for chicken feed, or bird seed anyway. But it wasn't practical. Now, here's an idea that really should work. Well, it was an idea. Having advanced this far, the next step is obvious. A simple matter of a few hundred years to the Wright brothers' first flight. Here they are, our old friends, the power trio. Air, fuel, and ignition.
What a ride. What a ride.
But how did we do it? Everything happened so fast. It sure did. And how does that plane go without a propeller?
It's a jet plane, boys, and with jet propulsion, you don't need a propeller. Let's take a look at it and see what makes it go. You know what happens when you blow up a toy balloon and then let go of it? The air rushes out and the balloon darts all over the place. It seems to go in all directions at once, but actually it travels in the direction opposite the jetted air blowing out the stem. You see, when the stem is closed, the air inside the balloon is under pressure and pushes out in all directions trying to expand. Since the air is pushing in all directions with equal force, the balloon does not move in any direction. But when the stem is opened, air is expelled from the hole and there is less force pushing on that side of the balloon. And so the balloon moves in the opposite direction as long as any air is still compressed in the balloon. If it had any way of creating a supply of air under pressure, the balloon would keep on moving. A jet plane works the same way. Air comes in the front end and hot gases are blown out the back end at very high speed.
I see. The jet hits the air, that is, the atmosphere behind the plane, and that pushes it ahead.
No, my friend, that's where you're wrong, but many people have the same idea. You remember, there is equal pressure in all directions when the balloon is closed. When the pressure is released at the stem, the pressure remaining on the opposite side of the balloon pushes it forward. The released air does not have to push on the outside air. In a vacuum, the balloon would move even faster. And that is the point about a jet plane. The jet does not push on anything outside the plane. All the work is done within the engine. A great force is required to build up the pressure in a jet engine. If that force were not released, the plane would not move, just like the balloon. When the force is released through the jet, the opposing force thrusts the plane forward. As the textbooks say, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. If the action is made continuous, the reaction becomes continuous. Think of what happens when a man dives from the end of a canoe. When he jumps forward, the canoe moves backward. The movement of the canoe depends upon the reaction created by the movement of the man. Should the man jump at a faster rate of speed, or a larger man jump at the same rate of speed, the canoe would move further. This is caused by a law we find in the textbooks. Force equals mass times acceleration. In a jet plane, this means the greater the mass of air that can be handled and compressed in the engine, and the faster it can move through and out of the engine, the greater the force built up to thrust the plane forward. And so you can see it's the reaction to the force built up by the engine within the plane that thrusts the plane forward. That's why you call jet engines reaction-type engines. Now that you know the principle of a reaction-type engine, let's see how it works. First, the starter begins turning the engine over. This pulls air through the intake at the front. And remember, this engine needs lots of air. From the intake, air goes to the compressor. In this compressed state, it is led to the combustion chambers. Now it is time for fuel and ignition. Fuel is pumped to nozzles in the front end of the combustion chambers. There it is injected into the compressed air as a spray, and because ignition enters the chamber at the same time, it is ignited instantly. Only during the start is there need for a spark from the igniter plug to start fuel burning. Once started, it burns continuously like a blowtorch. There is always more than enough air for combustion. In fact, only about 1/4 of the air passing through the engine is burned in the combustion chamber. The unburned 3/4 is used for other purposes, as we shall see later. The heat generated by a single combustion chamber is sufficient to heat a 300-room hotel when the outside temperature is 0. With the heat generated by combustion, the air and burn gases expand enormously, speeding up as they push out toward the exit in the rear. But the only way they can get out is by passing through the turbine nozzle, where they speed up even more, and then hit the turbine wheel blades, which make the wheel rotate at very high speeds. This makes the compressor turn at the same speed because the two are fastened solidly to the same shaft. The gases keep on moving out the tailpipe. At the exit end, the tailpipe becomes smaller, with the result that the gases go still faster as they shoot out into the atmosphere. A great force is exerted to push the gases out the rear of the engine. The reaction, that is, thrust, an equal and opposite force, propels the plane forward. One thing to remember about the jet engine is that it operates with a continuous flow of power. There is no cycle as in the engine of an automobile. The same events take place: intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. But they all go on continuously without interruption, and that makes busy boys of our friends air, fuel, and ignition. In some ways, a jet engine is simpler than a reciprocating type. Its main moving parts consist of one solid shaft with a compressor at one end and a turbine at the other. That seems simple indeed, but those two parts, the compressor and turbine, have a real job to do. There are two kinds of compressors in general use today: the centrifugal type and the axial flow compressor. In the axial flow compressor, there are alternate rows of rotating and stationary blades. The rotating blades, which are attached to the main shaft, are called rotors. The stationary blades, which are attached to the compressor casing, are called stators. The rotors accelerate the air, and the stators compress it as it travels through the compressor on its way to the combustion chambers. In the centrifugal type, air comes in near the center. The two parts of this compressor are the impeller and the diffuser. The impeller imparts high velocity to air. The diffuser changes that velocity into pressure. To move a sufficient mass of air into the combustion chamber, the impeller may turn over at speeds well over 11,500 revolutions per minute. Either one of the compressors has three jobs to perform: supplying air for combustion, supplying enough air for the internal cooling of the engine, furnishing the greatest possible weight of airflow for the engine. In one typical jet engine, about 1 million cubic feet of air are forced through it every 10 minutes. It would use all the air in an average-sized house every 10 seconds. The turbine wheel has an even tougher job than the compressor. It turns at the same speed, of course, but the turbine wheel must operate in temperatures of approximately 1,550 degrees Fahrenheit. The expanding gases, in their fight to get out, pass through a nozzle which directs them against the turbine blades and speeds them up to increase the impact. Better than half the energy in the gases goes to drive the turbine wheel, leaving the rest to develop thrust which propels the plane. Each small blade of the turbine wheel harnesses more horsepower than a modern automobile engine. The tip of each blade is traveling at the astounding speed of almost 900 miles per hour, and the blade itself must operate continuously under extreme conditions of stress and temperature. Power from the turbine is also used to drive the fuel pump, generator, and other accessories of the engine. As you remember, a large amount of the air entering the engine has not been used for combustion. It can be used in an afterburner when more power is required. Fuel is added to the airstream back of the turbine wheel where it burns, and thus increases the force pushing the gases out of the outlet nozzle. This considerably increases the thrust of the engine without raising the temperature of the turbine section. The principles of jet propulsion have long been known, but new alloys which would withstand great stresses and high temperatures had to be developed before the jet engine became practical. In overcoming some of these problems, the science of metallurgy has played a most important part. Well, boys, do you know how a jet engine works now?
Absolutely.
It's all a matter of reaction.
Force is exerted in one direction. The reaction pushes the plane in the opposite direction.
I think we got it all straight now, huh?
You've got the idea. Do you want to take the plane up and see what you can do with it?
You bet.
I'm first.
Here we go.
Jet engines were the answer to the demand for speed and more speed. Packing unheard of power in a small space, very light in weight, they are making dreams into realities. No warm-up before takeoff, good performance at high altitudes, the ability to burn low-cost fuels, greater pilot comfort, no propeller limitations on speed. These factors opened up many new possibilities. Although first intended for use only in small fighter planes, the jet is now making itself felt in other fields, and some related developments using the same basic principles will open even wider fields of use. One of these is the turboprop. This plane has propellers and looks like a conventional plane, but it is driven by engines very similar in principle to the jet engines we have just seen. They are gas turbine engines, and the main difference is that most of the gas energy is harnessed by the turbine wheels to drive not only the compressor and accessories, but also a propeller. This is accomplished by the addition of more turbine wheels, which are necessary in order to extract the energy of the gases, and thus only a small portion is left to produce jet thrust. Actually, this particular turboprop engine consists of an axial flow compressor, a combustion section, a turbine with more stages than in the jet engine, the accessories drives, and the reduction gear. The reduction gear is necessary in order to keep the propellers within practical speeds. Even including the weight of the extension shafting and reduction gear, this unit produces more than 2 horsepower per pound of weight, or twice as much as the most powerful piston-type engine. Gas turbine power may be applied to many applications other than aircraft. For commercial transports, the turboprop engine offers high power ratings at great saving in weight, economy of operation, freedom from noise and vibration, and the advantage of the propeller for takeoffs and landings on moderate-sized airstrips.
Boy, what a fine ride. Just like a skyrocket.
Rocket? I thought this picture was about jet propulsion.
You're both right, boys. Rockets travel by jet propulsion. There's just one difference. What we call a jet engine takes air from the surrounding atmosphere for burning with the fuel it carries. A rocket carries not only its own fuel, but also its own air, or rather its necessary element, oxygen. It takes along with it everything needed to make it go. For military uses, fireworks, and to help heavily loaded planes take off in a short distance, powder rockets are used. These contain gunpowder or a high explosive similar to those used in shells. These materials contain their own oxygen, they burn quickly, and get the rocket up to its maximum speed in a very short time. Then it keeps on going only by its own momentum. If we're thinking of rockets for transportation over long distances, we turn to the liquid fuel type. Many different fuels have been tried, but let us assume that gasoline is being used in this one. We have a tank of gasoline and a tank of liquid oxygen. These two materials are injected into the combustion chamber and ignited. The expanding gases rush out the rear as a jet of tremendous force, giving the rocket a powerful thrust forward. Because of the very high temperatures and the short period of thrust involved, there are still many problems to be solved in rocket flight. And what the future may bring, no one knows. Jet propulsion will continue to progress in many directions. A jet engine can reach high altitudes, but it must have some air. A rocket needs no outside air at all. And so if we're thinking of taking a trip to the moon, it will have to be in a rocket. How about it, boys?
Fasten your seatbelts. The sky's the limit. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Here we go.
I'm a deep-water sailor, just come from Hong Kong to me way. I blow the man down. If you give me some silver, I'll sing you a song. Oh, give me some time to blow the man down. Behind the 8 ball, I first had my time to be way. I blow the man down.
Behind the 8 ball, he has wasted his prime. Oh, give him some time to blow the man down.
Wise guy,
With tinkers and tailors and soldiers and all, to be way. I blow the man down.
One with the sailors behind the 8 ball. Oh, give him some time to blow the man down.
15 hairs and a dead man's chest.
Many brave hearts lie asleep in the haze of the night.
Calling all pirates, calling all pirates. Calling all pirates, ship off board, calling all pirates.
Come on, baby, kids, get dressed. We're going to have company.
I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it.
You will, and you'll like it.
All right, I will. But I won't like it.
You're the decoy. Shut up, you brat. Help a poor mother and a little child. Pipe down. Help, 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 help.
They fell for it. All Ball strike one.
Now I can buy me a purple shirt with pearl buttons.
Afraid not.
Why, that dirty crook. Getting so you can't trust anyone these days.
Where to? Oh, must be more than $1 million. Oh, shucks. There's more than 1,000, I bet you. But how can we take it with us?
And me what wants peace and quiet.
I've been a bad boy. I should have listened to my mother.
But gosh, how can we get home? Worry, 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 worry. I got it.
Nancy Lee and Joe. Your home, my lad, your home. See, there she stands and waves a hand upon the key. And every day when I'm away, she'll watch for me. And whisper low and gently slow when Jack can see. Your home, that's home, that's home. The harvest past, the wind is wild and free. Your home, we go across the sea. It's long and we can say at home will be. So here's a helping hand.
We certainly fixed those pirates, didn't we?
Tis longer we can say at home will be. So here's a help to Nancy Lee, Nancy Lee.
This is the residence of Fred Finchley. He's a family man who enjoys the peace and quiet of his little home. Fred Finchley has a good job.
Freddie, look.
And his family enjoys their standard of living. His salary keeps up with the cost of living, and he owns some of those work-saving appliances we all admire so much. Finchley always checks to make sure he gets his money's worth. But after paying his bills, taxes, keeping up his savings account, and life insurance premiums, there never seems to be enough money left to pay for that special dream. But there's a time for dreaming and a time for working. So every workday morning, Finchley joins the stream of traffic that flows toward his job. As you can see, Finchley could not be called a reckless character. But he always gets to work. To right on time.
Finchley!
Yes, J.B.
Finchley, I've wanted to speak to you for some time. You're doing a fine job. I'm raising your salary $60 a month. Have a cigar. Thanks for the good work, Finchley.
Well, gee, thanks, J.B., for the cigar and the raise. $60 a month. Boy, can I use it.
Sure you can, Mr. Finchley. But how?
How?
Yes, what will you do with those extra dollars? There are lots of things you could do. Bury it in a tin can in the backyard, for instance. But idle money may in time depreciate. Or you could spend it on a couple of nights out a week with the wife. This seems like a lot of fun. But with this kind of life, you'd depreciate. So why not put your money to work?
Put my money to work?
That's right, Mr. Finchley. You can own a share of American business. There are over 1,200 companies listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Companies which employ more than 11 million people, produce half of all the goods made in America, and pay about half the nation's dividends. Many of these companies have been paying dividends for 25 years or longer.
Wait a minute, I'm no tycoon.
Neither are most of the people who own shares in American business. 3 out of 4 of all share owners are in families which make less than $10,000 a year.
But my raise was only $60 a month.
Well, the monthly investment plan is specifically designed for anyone who wants to invest in common or preferred stocks on a pay-as-you-go basis. You can invest from $40 up to $1,000 every month or every 3 months under MIP. So why not visit a member firm of the New York Stock Exchange and get some practical advice on how to own a share in American business? And, Mr. Finchley, before you invest, investigate.
Yeah, invest. Just think, with $60 a month, I could... Just a moment, sir, if you please. You look like the kind of a man of judgment who knows how to invest his money wisely. Won't you step into my office, please? Let me give you a hot tip, strictly confidential. For a limited time only, we are offering to discriminating buyers like yourself a few shares in a world-famous company with mines in Nigeria, Tasmania, Somaliland, and Brooklyn. It's Utopium Unlimited. It glows in the dark. Small investment, big profit. As a special favor, I'll let you have 100 shares for only 40 cents a share. That comes to $40. Plus, of course, $20 for putting you onto a surefire moneymaker. You are now a man of substance. Thank you, sir, and congratulations. Hey, you!
Mr. Finchley, there is a big difference between dealing with a fly-by-night operator and a reputable broker.
Please sit down, Mr. Finchley.
First, tell me, what are you gonna sell me?
Not a thing, Mr. Finchley. As members of the New York Stock Exchange, we are prepared to be of service to you if you want to buy or sell stocks or bonds. As you may know, the New York Stock Exchange is the nation's marketplace, where listed securities are bought and sold through brokers representing buyers and sellers. There are nearly 2,000 offices of member firms in the United States. Every day, member brokers buy and sell for their customers hundreds of thousands of shares of stock. For example, a doctor in Atlanta wants to buy some stock. A farmer in Spokane wants to sell his stock in the same company to get cash, say, for a new tractor. The Atlanta broker for the buyer and the Spokane broker for the seller speed the orders to their exchange members on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. When the floor broker representing the buyer bids the price asked by the floor broker representing the seller, a transaction is made. When you sell securities on the New York Stock Exchange, you are paid in cash by the buyer. Every day, millions of dollars of listed securities are bought and sold on the New York Stock Exchange. You can check the price of your stock in a daily newspaper, or by getting the latest market quotation from a member broker like myself.
Well, how do I get the facts before I invest?
Before you'd buy stock in a company, you'd want to know, among other things, its record of sales, its earnings for previous years, what dividends it has paid, and its prospects for the future. Of course, we can't foretell the future, but we can give you many facts and figures to help you select a suitable stock.
Well, how about this monthly investment plan? Maybe I'd want to invest only about $50 a month.
Well, MIP was set up for people who want to buy stocks on a pay-as-you-go basis. And $50 a month can build up quite a little nest egg. Suppose you take a trial run along an imaginary investment route. You might select a stock selling for $100 a share. But let's say you invest $50 each month in a stock selling for $20 a share. At this price, your $50 buys almost 2.5 shares and also pays the broker's commission. If the price of your stock drops, you'll get discouraged, providing you believe the long-range price trend will be upward. Of course, you can sell at any time. But if you sell here, you lose on stock that cost you more than $15 a share. In addition, you'll have to pay the broker's commission on the sale. If you decide to continue the plan, your fixed monthly payment of $50
buys 3 and a fraction shares of stock at $15 a share. Say you continue to invest over a period of months, and your stock goes up to $27 a share. If you sell here, you'll have a profit on the shares that cost you less than $27. Your $50 monthly payment buys 1 and a fraction shares of stock at the price of $27 a share. Of course, the price of a stock can go down as well as up. But with a long-range monthly investment plan, your $50 a month buys more shares when the price is low, fewer shares when the price is high, to average out the price of all the stock you purchase. You can quit the plan at any time, Mr. Finchley, and take the shares you have purchased. But the idea of the monthly investment plan is to invest every month on a long-range basis in the stock of a company that you think will have good earnings and pay dividends. Take, for example, a company whose stock is selling at $20 a share. If that company, over the past year, paid out $1 a share, the dividend yield comes to 5%. You can keep the cash, or if you wish, the dividends can be automatically reinvested for you. Now, the investment route you're traveling is a good one, because the stock has paid satisfactory dividends. And even with its ups and downs, the long-range price trend has been upwards.
Looks pretty good. Thank you. But before I invest, I'm going to study the facts myself.
That's right, Mr. Finchley. All investors should study the facts carefully before they buy any stock. And remember, the monthly investment plan is designed especially for people who want to invest as little as $40 or $50, as well as for those who want to invest up to $1,000 every month or every 3 months. There are many promising investment routes to travel. Many companies whose stocks are listed on the New York Stock Exchange have helped to build our rising standard of living by constantly creating new jobs, services, and products. Therefore, Mr. Finchley and all those who can assume the risk of seeking dividends and profits can put their dollars to work by owning their share of American business through the monthly investment plan.
Here is any man. John, Johann, Juan, or Jacques. Atasante. Salud. Prosit. Your health.
Alcohol. What is alcohol, anyway?
Alcohol is the root of all evil. Down with King Alcohol.
Have you tasted the delicious flavor of Bacchus sparkling nectar?
Its drinking causes most of the world's misery.
It's the miserable state of the world that causes so much drinking.
Why can't I get some unprejudiced opinions? Some facts?
Facts? For years, alcohol students have experimented, analyzed, and weighed the evidence. So far, this is what we know. Alcoholic beverages can be made from almost any fruit or grain, each containing different amounts of ethyl alcohol. Alcohol, of course, enters the stomach and intestines, and from there it's rapidly absorbed, unchanged, into the bloodstream. In this stream, it's circulated again and again through all the organs, through each and every cell of the body. As it passes through the liver, alcohol is gradually changed into acetaldehyde, and then into acetic acid, which in its turn is changed into water and carbon dioxide by other body tissues. In this way, most of the alcohol is gradually oxidized, but for a small part, which is eliminated through the breath and the kidneys.
But drunkenness, how is that caused?
Well, you see, alcohol is an anesthetic, which is brought to the brain in the bloodstream. Imagine the brain as a complex control center which determines our actions and behavior. When alcohol enters the brain, it interferes with these functions. First to be affected is reasoning power, then inhibition, and memory. Gradually, alcohol affects vision, speech, and hearing. Eventually, muscular coordination is affected. If all these faculties are put to sleep, your consciousness goes. Leaving only the automatic processes, such as the control of breathing. If this is overcome, the heart stops.
Now, alcohol must be very dangerous.
Very few people die from taking too much alcohol at one time. But there are other dangers. See what I mean?
Why? Why do people drink?
Most people drink because it's the accepted custom. Some drink to escape the tensions of everyday life. But for a few people, alcohol becomes an obsession. Such a man begins with some deep conflict in his personality. His friends drink for relaxation, but when he drinks, it's to escape his conflicts. So he begins to look for drinking occasions as often as possible. When he can't find any other excuse, he sneaks a drink alone. Eventually, there comes a time when he pulls a blank, forgetting everything he's said or done. Later, when sober, he can remember only fragments. Now, after a few drinks, he can't stop. For him, alcohol is no longer a beverage. It's become a drug. Then follows reproof, resentment, aggression, Remorse. He loses his job. Tries to start again in another town. Doesn't work. He can't begin the day without a drink. And after one drink, he must have more, and more, and more. More, until... he lands in prison or the hospital, depending on whether his community understands that he's not a criminal, but a sick man, for whom the only price of freedom is to break away completely. This isn't easy. He needs help. There are doctors, social workers, and nurses who understand the alcoholic and can help him. And there are those who once were alcoholics themselves, whose understanding comes from experience. Alcoholics Anonymous.
But why do people continue to drink in spite of these dangers?
Alcohol has been used since the beginning of time, when it was believed to be the stream of life. A brotherhood of blood later became a brotherhood in wine. A contract signed and sealed in alcohol would not be broken. Birth, betrothal, marriage, all celebrated in the cup. The roots of superstition are deep. Listen.
I'm afraid we can't trust Bob. He won't drink with us.
Look how well Bill holds his liquor. He's a real man.
But, Doctor, if I stop drinking, people will think I'm peculiar.
You see, alcohol means many things to many people. To some it means release. And to some, torture. The problem stands. Will alcohol control us? Or can we control alcohol?